Hey everyone, this is Elon, and today we have two very special guests, Jennie and Calvin. And these are two people I actually met over a year ago now, since it was the Crushing It in Real Estate event over at Industrious. And so they're both real estate investors, both really great people. I've had the pleasure to really get to know them over this past 2020 and now into 2021. And they're doing some pretty cool stuff, whether it be masterminding, mentorship with other students, and investing, and even pursuing their own professional careers. Jennie is a real estate consultant, and Calvin works with ADP. And I'll have them do most of the explanation with what they're up to. But if you guys want to do a quick intro of yourselves, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. But great to be here today, Elon. And I came from the tech world previously as well too, and was selling and slanging software, as we would call it, back at Oracle, and that's where Calvin and I met. And decided to go and jump ship and become a real estate agent. Became one of the 30 under 30 National Association of Realtors for 2019, and have helped close to 200 families now purchase and list real estate. And in the meantime, like what sets us apart is that we've been investing in real estate. So been partnered with Calvin to do that. So really happy to share our journey, and Calvin can dive more into the investing side.
Yeah, and kind of like what Jenny said too. We met at Oracle, but we met at the gym, just to clarify, not at at Oracle. Um, but yeah, from my perspective too, grew up in a household that was all about being in the corporate life, climbing the corporate ladder that way, and that's what we did at Oracle. And I'm still in the tech world right now, selling ADP, which is great. But at the end of the day, I think we found a bigger passion and purpose in life, and that was real estate investing. And I know even growing up in the Bay Area, it was one of those things that, man, like, how am I going to afford to live
Mm.
in the Bay Area? It's so expensive here. Um, we were able to find real estate as a great vehicle to do that. And, even for us, just going from our original, purchase, which mine was a condo in SF, and house hacking that to being able to scale that up to 37 units and another basically 50 under contract. So it's been a great journey, and it's really great to just be able to give back to. And I think that's probably where we're driving the most energy from at this point.
Awesome. And before we get any deeper into the interview, I know a lot of people are going to be looking at this and just immediately thinking, like, oh, like, cool, these are some real estate investors, but what's kind of like some advice or like some knowledge I can use like right now immediately as like, I start watching this interview? So before we get like super deep, for those who are interested like in real estate investing or just learning about real estate in general, do you guys kind of have like any general or basic advice you give to people when they express an interest in real estate at all? We can start with Jennie and then Calvin.
Mhm. Yeah, so what we've learned is that there's a lot of relationship building and just letting people know that you are in the business. And even if you want to just do it through social media and even looking at properties, and you don't necessarily have to be a real estate agent, but for Calvin, like he's just letting people know, hey, I'm looking for different deals and this is what my criteria is. And he just lets people know and embodies the investor mentality. Even when we just started, it's like we didn't really have anything, but even owning a property and renting out a room, we called ourselves real estate investors in that way too. Because even if we get started, even if you don't own a property, we kind of owned up to that. If you own that mentality, then you will become it, right? So I would say definitely finding great relationships and great mentors. And we are now mentoring a lot of students in our Zen Coast University program and teaching them the ropes as well. So I'll have Calvin dive more into that.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off that, I mean, I think my one thing actually would be more about mindset, your own personal mindset, and understanding what your why is. Because at the end of the day, like real estate, just like money, right? It's a vehicle to get you to whatever your goals are, right? And hopefully your goals are not just I want to be rich, right? It's more like, okay, well, maybe I want to spend time with, the people that I love, doing what I want when I want, doing whatever I want, right? And I think that's really what we're hopefully trying to embody in this, and what I think a lot of people miss in the very beginning when they're going into real estate. They just say like, hey, I want to invest in real estate, but there's no really like clarity or focus of why, right? So I think even just taking that step back, reverse engineer that, understand your why first, and then see if real estate is a great vehicle to get you there.
Well said for the two of you. And thanks for that as well. I know people are going to be very interested now to kind of know a little bit more about you guys. So I kind of like the flow of Jennie and Calvin, and probably will just do that throughout the interview. But now kind of diving into the backstory. Growing up, can you guys kind of explain a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, and kind of how that blossomed to, let's say middle school, high school, just that full transition. That'd be awesome. And how was your experience, Jennie?
Yeah. So I grew up with immigrant parents. They immigrated here in the 80s and worked in a clothing factory sewing clothes. So they were working like 14 hours, 16-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week, and still doing so. So I remember just eating dinner super late at night and just going to figure out ways how to just start hustling as a young kid when I was bored when my parents weren't home. So actually, my first hustle was selling shoes. I would buy shoes from like eBay and different blog websites and like clean them up and flip them and made profit from that. And it was like Jordans and Nike SBs and some streetwear growing up in Brooklyn. So that was my childhood. And then been able to just continue like I remember high school senior year, I loved to like and parties. So I would like find venues and like rent it out, and we would do underage drinking, but like I would get people to like pitch in, and like I would make money that way. Like from my prom party, like I made money from hosting parties. So always like found like a way to be an entrepreneur all throughout. And yeah, and then went to school at USC and graduated from business and psychology. And even then I was selling life insurance, selling USC tickets, and that was a great experience. And then graduated, worked at Oracle for a few years, selling software, and now selling real estate and investing in real estate, and also selling courses, I guess, from teaching people on how to invest.
Great. Calvin?
Yeah, and for those who don't know Jennie, we call her Jennie from the block because last name Lok, but it's very fitting. When I first heard her shoe story, I was like, dang, dude, she's straight hustling since she was a kid. So my story isn't that cool. Not as cool as that, at least. I wasn't slanging Jordans or anything like that. But so I grew up. My parents are first generation. They grew up in the East Coast. My father was really the first son, the eldest child, essentially, of the first generation. My grandpa was a chef, so obviously they had nothing. But essentially, he was kind of thrust into the like father figure for like not only like his brothers and sisters, but also to like his cousins as well. Like they all lived in the same house essentially. So he's always had that mentality, and he kind of brought that into our household as well. Like, hey, you're the head of the household, like you're a male, like you got to be that masculine person of like I'm the guy, I got no emotion, all that stuff, right? And I think that as we look as we grew up, like he moved out to the West Coast and had me and my sister. We were born in LA, but we then moved to like Singapore. We lived there for about 5 years, got to experience that. It was really cool. And then, moved back to the Bay Area here, where I really, feel like was like my home. And, growing up, I was never really a great student. My sisters absolutely crushed me all day long in report cards and all that stuff. And I think that I was kind of like, that immature person for a while until, I got to college, and, I think halfway through college, kind of something clicked, and, turned to a point where I was like, all right, I should probably start to get, my life together a little bit. And then didn't really fully click. I was still kind of being that young, immature dude, going to party all the time and whatnot, up until, like got out of college, right? And kind of are thrust into the real world. And I think not into a point where I think we had read Rich Dad Poor Dad on the way to Las Vegas to a party that I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing with my life? And then Jennie literally dragging me to a real estate investing conference that really those two moments in my life are, we always talk about defining moments. Those two moments in my life really changed my perspective of my mindset of like, I'm a technician, I'm a person that is, climbing the corporate ladder, all that stuff, to like, okay, well, how can I, live abundantly in my life using real estate as a vehicle? And that was really that switch right there, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is again going to be like everyone's Bible in this industry area, but also, dragging me, to, these events of, like, wow, this is, there's something else out there. Right. So that was kind of where, I changed my life.
Wow, that's really interesting too, kind of hearing your guys' perspectives. One thing I'm curious about, growing up, did you guys, I know Jennie from the block was a hustler and was flipping things here and there, but did you guys aspire to be any type of like other career outside of real estate at all?
Yeah.
Jennie?
Actually, as a young kid, when even before my shoe hustling days, that was when I was at 12 years old. But when I was like 6 or 7 years old, I would be teaching my stuffed animals, and they had their black and white marble notebooks, and I would give them homework and like pretend to be the animals to like finish the homework. So I always wanted to be a teacher. I actually got into Teach for America as a job career after during college, my senior year. However, my dad, he was a teacher back in China, and he knew like the struggle in the life of a teacher, and he said, we didn't pay for USC tuition to go become a teacher, you should go take the job at Oracle instead. However, now it's like been able to go full circle and like teach in different ways, and like we created Zen Coast University, and now we're more owning up and being able to be teachers in different ways.
Great. How about you, Calvin?
Yeah. So, for me growing up, my dad always loved cars and I always loved, cars because of that as well. And, I always wanted to like design cars. Like that was always my like dream when I was a kid. Then I realized I couldn't draw for anything. Like if you've ever seen me draw anything, not good. Right. So that kind of pivoted. And in college happened, I thought I wanted to go into international business and, because I lived in Singapore for a while and, study abroad as well. Like, I thought that was kind of my passion, just to be international. But the course at our school, I went to Cal Poly and they canceled it midway throughout my tenure there. So then like looked into marketing. I was in that Mad Men phase where people were drinking cognac in the middle of the day and like trying to like create like these cool slogans and like branding for these big companies. And I thought that was what I wanted to do. And then I realized that there were no jobs out there. I'd have to move to New York and things like that. And, wanted to stay in California. So you just, figured out that at some point I was going to need some kind of sales skills and got into Oracle that way. But then, quickly found out that, sales is a great skill to know, but it's not like who you are as a person. And I think that was like the biggest struggle for me, just being in sales in general, is that, you're not just in sales, especially if you're kind of taught to like, match and mirror, right? You're trying to be an iguana to the other person. It's almost to the fact that you're like, man, you kind of lose who yourself is when you're in sales a little bit, because you're always mixing and matching to other people, which was kind of scary to me. So, glad that, we're finding an identity outside of just sales, especially for myself, right? Where you can create and cultivate something bigger.
Wow. Yeah, great. Well said for the two of you. Very interesting seeing how things are coming together for the present day. Uh, anyways, so I want to know a little bit more now. You guys kind of explained a little bit of your earlier years. I mean, the two of you are still pretty young, so, but I'm really interested now that you guys, let's say you graduate college, you're moving into the career. Calvin, you're moving into Oracle, you're doing sales. Uh, what was that experience like leading up to, let's say, like your first real estate deal or your first real estate investment? And we can start with Jennie again.
Mhm. Yeah. So the first house that I purchased, so I was renting before and then became the master tenant and ended up always increasing like the new tenants rents and then lowering mine. So that was my first thing, and then I also rented out the room half of the week to my friend, since I would stay with Calvin half of the time, and ended up only paying $400 a month in rent. I realized I'm tired of paying someone else's mortgage. So my first deal was a house hack that I bought in South San Francisco and leveraged a home equity line of credit from my parents' house and got a mortgage under my own name, and basically like was able to purchase the property with all bank money, a home equity line of credit, and the mortgage. And then I ended up being able to rent out the other rooms in the house, the other three rooms, to my former roommates and other friends from Oracle and work, and was able to get a little cash flow. It wasn't too much, but I was the biggest thing was I wasn't paying for rent anymore. And then fast forward, that was in 2016 when I was 23 years old. I actually remember working at Oracle late at night, and the lights would all shut off because the automatic censored. And then um, a girl came back from the gym late to pick something up. And then she's like, "Girl, what are you still doing working here? It's like 9 p.m." I was like, "I'm trying to buy a house at the age of 28." And then I was able to fast forward that and buy a house at the age of 23, and just learned through real estate knowledge and through different investing in that first house. Like I was able to save a lot on rent. So that money I went to buy out of state investments, and now we've been able to scale up a lot and about to have like 50 something units with Calvin by the end of this quarter.
Inspiring. How about you, Calvin?
Yeah, so I love this word because Jenny and I are very competitive, we'll call it, when it comes to real estate investing, and like especially when we were first starting dating, like we had obviously learned about real estate, and I think that's kind of when. So I actually got my offer accepted on my property first, but she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat him," so she actually closed before me. So I don't know who wins it or whatever, but like. Yeah, same here. I mean, I bought my first condo in San Francisco, and basically it was a 1 bedroom, 1 den, and basically just rented out the den. Had a, if you've ever been to SF and been anyone there, the room is essentially just like a curtain. That's the door, right? And literally rented out to this guy who was at a boot camp for coding, right? Rented it out for $1,200. My mortgage was $1,800, so he was paying off mostly all my mortgages. We were basically living for $600 in San Francisco. To live that lifestyle was very good for us. And like Jenny said, like it allowed us allow us to get our expenses down, right? And just stack what we were making at work and just be able to use that and buy investment properties to help start that momentum of money. And I thought that was, and I think that, we preach that all the time, that house hacking is one of the best ways to get started, because one of the things that people don't realize is that your biggest expense is your mortgage or your rent. But if you can take that out and just start saving that way, like you can use that money to just to actually buy assets that give you money. And that's what starts that momentum, like a snowball, gaining momentum down a mountain, right? Same concept there.
And to kind of deepen this part of the conversation a little bit more, I'm curious to know, I mean, I know, Jennie, you're a realtor, so you received some education and had to study to become a licensed realtor. But was there any other pieces of education or mentorship that really helped you guys get in this mindset of like, oh, I know you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad too, Calvin, but was there any, like, were you guys watching YouTubes, or were you just networking and really just putting yourself out there to educate yourself on real estate investing? But what were those early pieces of education that helped foster this knowledge to kind of go out there and kind of take these risks? Because in a lot of people's minds, this is kind of risky. Like, oh man, I got to find a tenant. Like, I got to do all this stuff to create some type of cash flow. Like, how do I do this? So Jennie, like, how did you start educating yourself with real estate?
So a lot of it is from podcasts similar to this. So we listen to Real Wealth Network, and we listened to Bigger Pockets, and some of our other good friends, Bryan Pham and Sean Pan, both have podcasts as well. So just listening to a lot of that content. We would also go to a lot of real estate events and seminars as well too, through uh, we were a part of a community called Fortune Builders, and it was a big investment, but we realized that it was cheaper than like a year tuition at USC. So but we've learned a lot more from that. And we didn't actually have the money then to purchase it, but we just put it on a credit card, and we knew that like the knowledge that we would learn would be able to propel us further. And I actually had an Uber driver who asked me this riddle, who's like, what is the most valuable piece of real estate out there? And I asked that to you too, Elon, and it is your mindset, your brain. And for us to like invest in our mindset and our brain, we were able to really shift and propel a lot further that way. And then we started like hosting meetup groups and gathering people in the Bay Area together and having different speakers, and realized how influential that was. And now like we can't really do that live, but been able to do that through a virtual platform through our university online.
Great. Yeah. How about you, Calvin, for educating yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think first is just investing into yourself, right? So investing into your mindset, books, podcasts, like Jenny mentioned, some of the communities like Fortune Builders and whatnot, just throwing yourself at that. And then the other aspect I would mention is like just surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, I think we're all a culmination of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if you're constantly talking to people that are thinking the same thing or even have the shared mindset or same goal, helps you elevate. It just helps you elevate because you're talking in terms that they're talking. You're able to help each other as well. So that community aspect, there's no price that you can pay for any kind of community like that. Whether that be mentorships or just groups, masterminds that you're in. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of masterminds and mentors as well that we've been part of. I'm a part of GoBundance as well. That everyone just is in this like higher level of like thinking about like different things, and it just helps you grow, mostly because it helps you challenge yourself. Like, oh man, I've never thought about that, right? Let me like look into that. But I think even to you, Elon, you had mentioned before, like, how do we jump into this? Because some people might think that's risky. I think it's risky because people feel uncomfortable in it, and they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't educate themselves. But if they educate themselves, do things correctly, have the right systems in place, and talk to people who've done it before, I think the risk is a lot less. Obviously, in real estate, there's always risk, but it's all about how can I live at my risk, and that is by getting close to people that are doing this right now. Getting a community that can help you up level yourself and challenge yourself. It may feel uncomfortable. I was actually just on a coaching call all day actually today, but a couple of them today were just like, I feel like uncomfortable in a good way. I'm uncomfortable with how much growth that I've had. And it's so crazy to hear that. Like, whoa, like you imagine like being uncomfortable as a bad thing, but I would challenge that thought that actually if you feel uncomfortable, it probably means that you're growing.
Mm, that's super powerful. I've been thinking about that a lot too recently. Like if there's one thing I have to sacrifice for like my growth, it should be actually my comfort. Like the things that you are comfortable with, whether it just be like I know you guys mentioned like partying and going out. I mean, I can definitely relate to that too because I'm kind of in that time, but since it's COVID, I've just been like working, and so not just kicking back as much. And to kind of talk about like this growth, I'm really curious. During your guys's pre-Zen University kind of mentorship you're doing now, were there any times where you guys were feeling challenged or uncomfortable with your real estate investing? Because now you guys are pretty much experts at what you're doing and you're investing out of state. But I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of those moments in real estate uh, where you were feeling challenged. And so we can start with Jennie again.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a challenge in each step, like buying something out of state without seeing it and never being in Huntsville, Alabama. It was a little scary, but I think I just focused more so on the long long game and like the long-term goal, that it trumped like any fear that to like take that next step, because I realized like the longer I wait, it's like it's not gonna build anything and my money is not going to be working for me. And as we scaled and bought fourplexes, that was scary as well too. And like over 100-year-old buildings in this area that we didn't really know. And now we're closing on 16 units, and Calvin's been awesome at like managing projects out of area too. So that those are still things that sometimes scare me, like talking to contractors, but Calvin's been really great at it, and he can share and shed some more light on that.
Yeah, and Elon, I think you said something before that I picked up on, that was, that you guys are experts at this. And I challenge that, saying that we're not experts, right? We're always beginners, right? If we're an expert, even as coaches right now, like we failed, right? Because we're not growing ourselves, right? So I'd always say that, hey, I'm just that beginner mindset, just like everyone else, where I'm always looking to grow. And I think that the uncomfortableness, yeah, it happens all the time. It happens to everyone, right? And I think it's two part. One is, I feel like your body, it's a defense mechanism. When you're feeling comfortable, your body wants to feel comfortable, right? So it's a defense mechanism to tell you, hey, don't do that, right? But so, and I think one piece of that is, hey, you want to just make sure you honor that. I appreciate you, body, and mind, for telling me and try to keep me safe, but I think I know what I'm doing here, right? And I think in a specific example of uncomfortableness, I think Jennie had nailed it there. Like, first investment property out of state. Yeah, it made us feel a little uncomfortable, but we kind of just dove into it, right? Anytime we've gone up to fourplexes, or now we're doing commercial buildings, right? Like it makes you feel a little bit uneasy, right? But again, like that uneasiness should feel, I think I told Jennie this the other day, is like, if that deal doesn't get me scared and excited, then like it probably shouldn't be doing that deal. But like if it does, then it gives you that excitement, it gives you that rush, like, all right, like this could be something. So I would say accept it and embrace it.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And now kind of catching up to speed now to the present day. So you guys take some risks, you're dealing with business out of state. You guys start getting some traction, and now let's say you have your presentation at Industrious, and that's when we meet. And by the way, that was super cool. That was like one of, honestly, for me, that event, I didn't even know Calvin was a speaker. And so when we came early, we came early on purpose to like network and to chop it up with people. And then I met Jennie like real quick, and then I'm like, oh, that's Calvin up there. Like, whoa, super cool. And yeah, shout out to Bryan and Maggie too. Really awesome people. We actually had Maggie on here like episode 2, or 12. But yeah, and so Bryan helped host that, and we talked, and I remember, I think I even won a book too, which was really fun. I remember sitting right in the front. I don't know if you guys remember that. I said right in the front. But yeah, so catching up to speed to that present day 2020 and now 2021. What have you guys been up to since? Pretty much. I know we've communicated here and there ever since, but I'm really curious. What have you guys been up to? You guys mentioned Zen Coast. What is that? What do you guys have for 2021 planned, and really beyond too? I'm really curious to hear where you guys are at and what you guys have planned. So Jennie, if you want to kick that off.
Yeah, for 2020, first, like we bought our dream house together, and I think that was like a big step, where being able to live in a beautiful place during this crazy time, and have my room here, an office, and Calvin has his room down there as well too. And I think that was one of the biggest accomplishments that we were able to go for through 2020. And launching this course was more so like we weren't really planning on doing so. Like we've always wanted to, but we didn't really set a plan. But like so many people kept on asking us, can you coach us? Can you teach us on like how you're doing that? But we would hop on a lot of calls, like initial calls with people on, and then they would not really take action on what they were doing. And then I started coaching some other students in a program, and then they took action right away, and they got like because they were committed and financially into this, and they put more skin in the game. So I think that's what we realized is like it would be a disservice if like it was a free course or it was like a $200 course, like then people won't really take action. So now we have close to 30 students in Zen Coast University, and some of them already gotten some deals, which is amazing. And seeing that growth and that trajectory, we're looking to expand that, and we're looking to bring on more students, um, and then just really focus on educating and giving back, because we want people to get to the goals that we've been able to accomplish in less than 4.5 years, to buy like over like close to 30 something to 50 units, to buy a dream house. Like you guys can do this all before the age of 30 if you guys who are listening are less than 30, but in a matter of less than 5 years.
Great. How about you, Calvin?
Yeah, so I think since the industrious talk, I don't even know when that was, year and a half ago, whatever COVID time is now. Um, so I think to kind of rewind it a little bit, I think why we even got into real estate, or what we figured out during our journey with real estate, was that it was all about legacy for us, right? Like how can we imprint something better in this world based off our capabilities, than we left it, right? And using real estate as a vehicle, I think we both kind of came to a realization that, hey, like, this real estate thing is done, all right for us, right? It's provided for us pretty well. And, how can we give this back to people, right? And I think that stress of sometimes that financial burden of always having, something else, right? A financial like burden on like, on everything makes you feel maybe that you're not being authentic all the time, right? But if you can come without a financial burden, right, and live more financially free, you can have more of a abundance type of mentality, right? You can come from a place of abundance. And I think for us, like knowing that real estate was kind of that vehicle that helped us get there, we were like, okay, well, how can we give back in that, using real estate as a vehicle? So as Jennie had mentioned, like, yeah, we weren't planning on doing it, but because so many people reached out, we're like, hey, this could be a way that we could help not only like leave a legacy for ourselves, but leave a better impact and a positive impact on Earth, right? With our network, and if our students, with our students that we're able to help them out, like they're able to help someone else out, and their network, and that compounds. And even one of our students, like one of my favorite stories is that she bought an out-of-state duplex, right? Not for herself as an investment property to to live in herself, but really so that she could help her single mom move there, live on one side, and have the tenant pay off the mortgage, and the mom not have to pay anything, right? So basically letting her mom house hack, which I was like, man, that just like hits so at home with what we're trying to do, right? Of like, how's real estate a vehicle to help your why, right? And her big why, a big part of that was her mother and her family. So that affects her mom. Her mom now takes that, can live more abundantly because she has no burden on rent because she's unemployed too. How could she now give that to someone else, give that to someone else, and give that to someone else, and hopefully that makes an impact, even if we can't see it or not, right?
Right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. And I'm very curious too. So we were able to kind of talk about your guys' upbringing, your motivations, your mindset, the value of mindset too, right? What do you guys have in mind for long-term vision? I'm very curious. I know short-term, probably scaling up what you guys are already doing, but long-term, do you guys have anything in mind? Jennie?
Yeah. I think it definitely goes back to like my passion as a little girl to teach. And for us, why we called Zen Coast University, was to provide that peace of mind that it's not just about the doors or the cash flow that you're having or the numbers, but really finding like your peace within. And then coast is to be able to coast through your life and travel coast to coast, because we all love to travel. Our families all from different areas. So we want to be able to expand this as well, like coast to coast to different countries, and up level and change the the mindset of the traditional education process and be able to teach people financial education at an earlier age, or be able to make these investments for themselves that are slightly different. And we also do want to partner with corporations, where a lot of corporations, like when we were at Oracle, we had a educational stipend, and we took classes at Stanford, and that was paid for by the company. So as a way to incentivize and as a retainment tool for corporations and for people to be more engaged, is our courses to corporations. So that's one of the bigger goals that we want to set forth in the next like 5 to 10 years, and be able to grow that on a larger scale.
Wow. Wow. Calvin, anything to add?
Yeah. So we practice this thing called your vivid vision. So another book as well that is really influential in our lives is that vivid vision. And as I go back to like understanding that big why, like this absolutely gives a lot of clarity on how can I imagine what my vision is, my goals are, right? And what the vivid vision is basically saying something that's very specific and envisioning in your own mind, like you actually even being there and talking like this has already happened, like kind of tricking your subconscious mind to say, hey, this already happened, right? So I'll just recite like my 1 year vivid vision, right? So right now I'm staying on a beach, or I'm in Barcelona. It's 2020, December 31st, 2021. It's my birthday. We're in Barcelona at the W Hotel eating patatas bravas and sipping sangria on the penthouse restaurant. And I'm so proud as I look back at this year that we've been able to help 200 students reach a place of abundance. And I'm able to now work with my family as well in my own business and be able to spend time with them that way. So that's one part of it. And I could go on for, another hour on that, but that's kind of like my summary overview of my vivid vision, right? Just imagine where you're at, imagine what you're eating, having that vision, right, can help you work backwards toward that for the year. So for us, that big one is just how can we help as many students, our goal is 200 students this year, reach that place of abundance.
Yeah, that's some pretty big stuff that you just actually dropped in there, kind of conditioning your subconscious mind, right? That's what it sounds like a lot to me. And I've been reading a lot of Napoleon Hill and like Think and Grow Rich, and who else? I don't know if you guys know John Assaraf. So he's another author. But yeah, a lot of these methods and kind of learnings that you're kind of expressing, the both of you, super valuable stuff, and stuff that I have actually been trying to condition myself with a lot the past 2020. So it's really cool to kind of hear you guys echoing this stuff, right? And actually like real time, at least during the interview. But as we start to wind down with this interview now, for those who, to kind of wind back to the mentorship that you guys are giving, and the advice and the game that you guys are sharing, is there, from your guys' perspectives and positions, what advice would you give to someone who is just looking to really, really like just take the next step? Like, okay, cool. Like maybe they have been listening to podcasts, maybe they have been working on their subconscious mind, maybe they have been networking with people and trying to make relationships. Is there any advice you would give to that person, almost yourself? Like if you had to give advice to yourself in the past, like, is there any advice you would give to that person who was developing and really just working on it? Would it just be keep at it, persistence, or would it, is there something that you might have missed on your journey that you realize now that could have really helped create leverage, and almost save time too, right? So I know you guys mentioned mentorship and stuff, but is there anything else you would kind of squeeze out and give advice to that younger you? We can start with Jennie.
They definitely, it's important to have a coach or a third party perspective to look at your goals and be able to point and call you out. And I've been able to do that, like just shifting people's mindsets. Like when they're saying like, "Oh, my goal is to get X, Y, and Z," but I said, "No, that's your plan. Let's call your goals your plans." And having someone else to like challenge you in a lot different way, like will be able to up level you and be uncomfortable as well too. And I've been able to do that with some of our students and help them make themselves feel uncomfortable, and they were trying to do the same stuff like watching YouTube and reading books for over a year and didn't really take action. There's something that you will always like hear in this industry is analysis paralysis. You just like are also a squirrel, like trying to do so many different things and realize like you're not really taking action on it. So imperfect action is going to be better than no action at all. So like nothing has to be perfect there, but at least like move forward and project in some way and have someone there to help support you.
That means a lot. Wow. You, Calvin?
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna say two things. All right. So one is if I go back to myself, I would say you're thinking too small. And I think with my own limiting belief back then of what the construct of was where I was at that point. I think when we first started, we were like, Jay and I were like, oh man, like if we can get 10 units in our lifetime, man, we made it right there. We made it, right? Fast forward, 5, 6 years later, like almost at 50 units, like I would 6 year old me or 6 years ago me would have just not been able to believe that, right? And that's the problem, right? That's see, I'm 29 right now, so 23-year-old me would have been like, that's impossible. But that was a limiting belief that was impossible right there. So I would say again there, like, don't have that limiting belief. Like, think bigger. I think thinking too small definitely limits people from going from point A to point B slow, right? And the second piece I would say is confidence. Having the confidence to do something. And it's kind of piggybacking off of Jennie's thing as well, is like just having someone there to lean on, right? And the biggest thing I've taken away from the feedback I've gotten from my students as well is like, yeah, you guys have just helped us gain the confidence to do it, right? I know for a fact that I can come to you to get some advice on this. It's almost like a mentorship, like same way that we've gotten our mentorships in the past, right? We're giving that back, right? We're paying it forward, essentially. Like the same way that our mentors, it's for us. Like same thing, just have someone to lean on to be able to that does have experience that can give you that confidence to be like, all right, I feel fully confident I can do this. I feel fully confident I can develop the plan and execute the plan. And someone is holding me accountable to make sure I'm building the habits to create that plan. Because again, it's not always about the end goal, but in my mind, it's all about the habits that you build to get there. End goal is great, but it's not gonna get you there. What will get you there are the habits, the small habits that you build that will get you there.
Yo, there's a lot of fire in this interview. I'm super excited to get back into editing and chop it up and publish it for the people. But thanks so much, guys. There's a lot of great nuggets in here, and I'm excited for people to actually digest this information and kind of share what you guys are doing, paying it forward, right? And so if there's people that want to connect with you, do you guys have a general place to go to or website to go to or email or anything? But now would be a great time to kind of plug that in here. Uh,
Our website is Zen Coast University, so ZenCoast University, UNIVERSITY.com. And that's a
I
little
would not have ever saw that, by the way. That's
or you guys can follow us on Instagram as well. I'm Jennie Lok, JennieLok. Calvin is calvin.chin91 on Instagram.
Great. And I'll make sure to link all of this and type all of this stuff too once I publish everything. But thanks you guys so much for doing this interview. And I'm excited to actually keep on learning with you guys too and collaborating in the future. So I know 2021 has been I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of like life. So I'm excited to just see how things unfold. And I know I'm pretty young. You guys mentioned that when you guys were 23, you guys were still developing and really taking action on yourself too, though, you know, wherever you were, but the habits you had at the time. And so I'm excited to just learn with you guys and to keep on building. And thanks again. I really appreciate the time for this past hour we've had together. So with that being said, thanks for the podcast interview.
Yeah. Likewise, man. I appreciate you having us, dude. And we're so excited to see your growth in this podcast, man. This is a ribbon, great experience, man. And I'm so happy and curious to see, you know, where this takes off to, because I know it will.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Well, all right, guys. Thanks so much. I'm going to end this call for us. But thanks again, Jennie. Thank you, Calvin. And I'll make sure to talk with you guys soon after I just end this Zoom session. So again, Zen Coast, and we will reconnect soon. So with that being said, thanks, guys.
Brother. Take care.
Peace.
Thanks, Elon.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.